Every word that leaves your lips reveals more than you realize. Every sentence you share, every opinion you voice, it's like handing someone a blueprint of your inner workings. You're not just communicating, you're offering access. Desires, fears, ambitions, they all spill out in your speech like a trail of breadcrumbs. While many take pride in being vocal, mistaking loudness for strength, true strength lies in restraint. Speaking doesn't shield you, it exposes you. And once you're exposed, you become a target. The man who speaks without strategy becomes the man everyone can strike. The one who remains unreadable, however, forces others to hesitate. There's a reason the most dangerous individuals are the ones who say the least. Their quiet nature isn't born from uncertainty, it's crafted from precision. In a society obsessed with being heard, those who choose silence construct an aura that's far more commanding than noise ever could be. This isn't the kind of quiet that comes from weakness. It's the kind that rattles people. Strategic silence, cold, deliberate, unsettling, is the tool of someone who understands that power is not displayed, it's reserved. Because once the world knows your limits, your thoughts, and your vulnerabilities, it begins shaping ways to use them against you. Those who speak too much willingly surrender their leverage. Silence is not absence, it's invisibility with intention. While others bleed their intentions through speech, the quiet man draws curtains over his mind. Those curtains become barriers that no amount of guessing can penetrate. And in this game of presence and perception, the unknown becomes feared. There is immense power in denying others access. The fewer clues you give, the more unpredictable you remain, and unpredictability breeds hesitation. Hesitation weakens action. So the man who guards his thoughts in silence becomes the architect of control. Rage is a reaction. Quiet is a decision. Many find comfort in explosions of anger. They scream, they rant, they demand, but in their outburst, they forfeit power. They show their hand. Those outbursts might feel like strength, but they're a currency easily spent and rarely replenished. The one who rages loudly gives their enemy the very rhythm of their heart. But the man who absorbs insult and pain without a single word, that man is terrifying. He doesn't erupt, he calculates. While others vent, he plots. Because the moment you explode, you announce that your enemy has struck a nerve. And once they see the wound, they'll keep pressing. But imagine instead, you remain still. No rebuttal, no counterattack, just chilling composure. In that silence, the enemy becomes unsettled. They're expecting retaliation, noise, emotional storms, but you offer none. You strip them of the control they thought they had. The silence becomes a mirror, and in that reflection, they see their own desperation. Meanwhile, you maintain dominion, not only over the moment, but over yourself. Because in that pause, you regain clarity. You see the terrain more clearly. You regain authority over your decisions. The loud man acts without thinking. The quiet man lets the storm pass before he draws his blade. Success, when spoken of too loudly, invites sabotage. The more you announce your rise, the more those who feel small begin to resent you. Pride may demand you speak of your victories, but wisdom urges you to build behind closed doors. Let others wonder. Let them whisper. If they must know of your wins, let them find out through outcomes, not broadcasts. Because the man who keeps quiet while thriving builds a force no one knows how to stop. Mystique grows in the gaps between perception and reality, and in that mist, enemies cannot find the target. They only swing at shadows. Talking feeds ego. It feeds distraction. But the quiet achiever sharpens his focus. He does not need applause to validate his path. He does not need confirmation to believe in his trajectory. The more noise you make, the more off course you go. And once you start performing for others, You begin constructing a version of success that's for them, not for yourself. Silence grounds you. It keeps you pointed at your true direction. It prevents you from being steered by vanity. When betrayal comes, and it always does, your silence is not surrender, it's elevation. The desire to confront, to demand answers, to expose the disloyalty. It's all noise. It's the reaction they expect. It's the control they want. But when you vanish, wordless, you do more damage than any confrontation ever could. You remove the betrayer from your world without ceremony. You deny them the spotlight they so desperately crave. You offer no explanation, no parting words. And in doing so, you leave them to stew in the silence. That silence echoes, it lingers. It forces them to relive every action they took, wondering what you know, what you'll do, and when. In absence, you inflict more than anger ever could. You take away their stage. You rob them of your emotional presence. They don't know if you're hurt or unmoved. They don't know if you're plotting or indifferent. That ambiguity drives them mad. And in your silence, you don't just maintain power, you increase it. Because in the stillness, you become untouchable. You become an unknown force, and people fear what they cannot measure. In rooms filled with noise, the one who sits still becomes the enigma. While others clash for dominance through sound, you observe. You watch who reveals too much, who bends for approval, who lies through smiles. In their desperation to be seen, they expose themselves. And you, by doing nothing but listening, become the most informed person in the space. You gather their secrets while revealing none of yours. They talk, you study. They seek validation, you seek patterns. The talkers don't realize they're handing you a map. Every phrase, every overstep, every attempt to impress, it all gives away their strategy. Meanwhile, you stay unreadable. Being unreadable is not just protection, it's intimidation. People are unnerved by what they cannot predict. When they can't tell what you're thinking, they become self-conscious. They repeat themselves. They fill the silence with nervous chatter. And in doing so, they lose their edge. You didn't overpower them. You let them overpower themselves. This is the art of restraint. It is the mark of someone who does not chase control but quietly collects it. When insults are hurled in public, the instinct to fire back is natural, but destructive. The moment you defend yourself in front of a crowd, you descend to the level of your critic, and suddenly, the battle becomes one between equals. That's a loss. The man who engages in verbal duels with fools places himself among them, but the man who stands motionless while being challenged, that man is seen as untouchable. His lack of reaction becomes a posture of supremacy. The more you refuse to engage, the more power you accumulate. Others begin to question the attacker, not you. They wonder why you're unshaken. They study your face for signs of reaction, and when they find none, they assign strength to your stillness. That's the moment the attacker loses not just the argument, but credibility. Their efforts to provoke become a performance seen for what it is, and you, by not saying a word, become the one who owns the room. Information is leverage, but timing is everything. Knowing the truth is one thing, using it correctly is another. When you learn something damning, the temptation to reveal it immediately can be overwhelming, but that urge comes from emotion, and emotion is exploitable. Patience, however, turns knowledge into a dagger hidden behind your back. Let the deceivers spin their lies, let them stack their fabrications high. Each word becomes another weight in the trap they've built for themselves, and you, by staying silent, tighten the snare. Once they believe you're ignorant, their guard drops, they become careless, they underestimate you. That's when they expose themselves fully. Then, and only then, you strike. One well-timed truth can collapse everything they've constructed. But if you speak too early, they'll regroup. They'll protect themselves. They'll disarm your truth before it detonates. So the man who knows but says nothing, he becomes fate. When he finally acts, it doesn't feel like a decision. It feels like inevitability. He doesn't need to scream. He simply reveals what was always coming. The closer you are to influence, the more tempting it becomes to speak. People try to charm their way into the circles of the powerful. They speak with urgency, eager to prove they belong. And in doing so, they often talk themselves out of respect. The more someone tries to impress, the more they appear needy. Power respects restraint. It respects those who do not bend for acknowledgement. So the one who observes without fanfare, who nods without begging for approval, that's the one who stands out. When you're in the presence of someone with status, say little, offer no stories, reveal no desires. Let them be curious about you. Let your silence build gravity. Because if you withhold your essence, they'll lean in. They'll want to know more, and the moment they want something from you, the balance shifts. You're no longer beneath them. You're the enigma they can't ignore. And in a world of performers, the person who refuses to dance becomes the center of attention. When under surveillance, whether by peers, superiors, or foes, the greatest tactic is unpredictability. Stillness under observation turns into a fortress. People can only strike what they can anticipate. If your movements are unclear, your intentions are foggy, and your reactions are invisible, then no one knows how to deal with you. You are no longer a man. They see a shadow. They prepare for assaults that never come. They defend against plans that don't exist. And in that chaos of their own imagination, you build. Even when the world demands to know your plans, keep them under lock and key. Don't outline your goals. Don't reveal your direction. Because the moment they know your aim, they begin preparing ways to block it. Or worse, they imitate and steal it. Keep your future hidden. Speak vaguely, smile ambiguously. Make your next steps impossible to trace. That secrecy is not deception. It's insulation. It's how you protect momentum. It's how you make sure your journey remains yours and yours alone. When you're in motion but say nothing of it, you turn your path into a silent current beneath a frozen lake. On the surface, calm. Beneath, relentless. This is how powerful moves are made, out of sight, beyond reach. The more people know of your intentions, the easier it is for them to shape the environment around you. Not with weapons or walls, but with distraction, doubt, and delays. The moment your trajectory becomes visible, it becomes vulnerable. So the man who walks without announcing, who builds without boasting, is always miles ahead by the time the world begins to guess. Inquiries about your future, your ambitions, or your methods aren't always innocent. Some come dressed as curiosity, but are rooted in control. The more they learn about your path, the more they try to position themselves around it. They'll question your timing, your confidence, your capability. And if they can't stop you with interference, they'll try with discouragement. But if they don't know what's coming, they can't block the road. You remain untouchable, not because you are immune to threat, but because no one knows where to strike. Silence here isn't mystery for the sake of mystique. It's armor. Every step you take without announcement grants you freedom. You're not boxed in by others' projections or burdened by their opinions. You pivot as you please. You evolve without restraint. You can change strategies without needing explanations. Your growth becomes fluid, uninterrupted. When you do reveal the outcome, it hits like a storm out of nowhere. No build-up, no warning, just impact. This is why the unknown is so devastating. It doesn't give others time to prepare, and preparation is where most defenses are built. If you rob them of that, you've already won half the battle before it begins. In the world of silent strategy, even your delays become part of the design. When you withhold, when you don't rise to every poke or challenge, people start crafting stories in your silence. They imagine strength, they assume calculation, and in doing so, they give your silence more power than your words ever could. Their minds do the work for you. Their fear paints you as someone capable of anything. That's the brilliance of invisibility. It lets them project their worst-case scenarios while you calmly, quietly prepare your best-case result. Consider every social arena as a board of influence. Most are rushing their moves. They speak too soon, brag too loud, challenge without understanding. They don't realize that haste makes them vulnerable. But the quiet ones, they move like shadows, waiting for the perfect moment. Their silence isn't hesitation, it's loading. They may appear passive, but they are drawing the string of a bow. And when they act, it's not a burst. It's precision, a single move that pierces through chaos with surgical aim. When you're insulted or dismissed, you're given an opportunity, not to respond, but to observe. The loud will bait you with ego traps, hoping you'll try to reclaim your dignity through volume. But there's no honor in reacting. Honor comes in not needing to prove anything at all. True stature is self-evident. You don't need to announce your weight when the floor shakes beneath your presence. Let them rant, let them attempt to diminish. Every word they waste is proof they feel threatened. Every time you stay composed, you turn their aggression inward. They begin to wonder why you won't respond, why their attacks don't work. That doubt grows louder in their heads than anything you could say aloud. You become the void that consumes their energy. They punch into nothing and exhaust themselves. You, untouched, become the presence that won't move, won't flinch, won't be baited. That's not silence. It's a kind of domination that doesn't require confrontation. Your stillness becomes a force field. You're not just declining to engage. You're demonstrating that engagement was never required, and the onlookers see it. They start seeing the attacker as unhinged, the target as composed. The tables turn without a single exchange. Mastery over self begins where noise ends. The man who has full dominion over his emotions doesn't need to raise his voice to establish presence. He doesn't react to disrespect with eruptions, because his confidence is not tied to others' opinions. Instead of barking, he waits. Instead of defending, he observes. And in that space of patience, he plans with clarity others can't even comprehend in the fog of their impulses. If someone betrays your trust, remember, confrontation grants them significance. Your words become an acknowledgement of their impact. Your silence, however, is dismissal without ceremony. It is the ultimate form of closure. You close the door so completely they can't even knock. Silence removes the platform for theatrics. It gives them nothing to respond to, nothing to manipulate. It is the sound of finality. And the beauty is, they will never be certain what you're feeling. They won't know if you've moved on or are quietly sharpening your resolve. That ambiguity is agony for those who crave attention or closure. The real pain comes not from being yelled at, but from being erased. The one who disappears wordlessly is unforgettable, because what was left unsaid grows heavier than what could have been screamed. They replay your absence in their heads like a phantom limb. You didn't curse, you didn't accuse, you simply removed your presence, and that decision made in silence will echo longer than any argument ever could. When you possess truth others don't, do not wield it like a flag. Let it simmer in stillness. They will continue spinning their lies, crafting their illusion of control. But you have a quiet blade, one built of fact and timing. When you speak prematurely, you give them a chance to regroup, When you confront in anger, you lose the element of surprise. But when you wait, when you allow their own deception to deepen, you set a trap without bait. They feed it themselves. Eventually, when your silence ends, it won't be to explain. It will be to end, not an argument, but a cycle. One truth, calmly presented, will collapse the scaffolding of all their lies, because by the time you speak, you've already prepared the consequences. And when that happens, it won't feel like revenge, it will feel like inevitability. That's what precision looks like. It's not reaction, it's revelation, perfectly timed to destroy the illusion. The powerful never explain themselves. They don't justify. They don't plead. Their presence is the message, and their silence is the exclamation point. When you're around authority, status, or gatekeepers, let your quiet be louder than applause. Don't compete for attention. Don't force your story into the room. Let your discipline speak volumes. Let them be drawn to your self-assuredness. The man who doesn't perform becomes the one they cannot ignore. Why? Because he signals that he doesn't need validation. And in that signal, he becomes the only one worth watching. Mystery creates gravity. When they don't know what you want, they can't control you. When they can't tell what you're thinking, they give you space. When they don't understand your motives, they fear your potential. That's the foundation of strategic silence. It's not just about shutting your mouth. It's about commanding the atmosphere without contributing to the noise. And when you're under the microscope, when your every move is tracked, resist the urge to show your hand. People will interpret your silence in 100 different ways. Let them. Some will assume confidence, others arrogance. Let them be unsure, because while they're busy guessing, you're busy building. You don't owe clarity to the curious, especially not when clarity costs you control. Become unreadable, not by deceit but by restraint. In a world that documents every step, being unknown is a weapon of legend. If you find yourself constantly explaining what's next, constantly sharing your blueprint, then understand, you are giving away your power. Not all eyes are friendly, not all ears are supportive. Some are listening not to support, but to sabotage. They'll copy, they'll distort, they'll obstruct, but only if they know. Don't give them the chance. Speak vaguely, move boldly. Let your silence be the soil where your vision grows. You don't need to tell anyone you're coming, just arrive. Let your presence do the explaining. Let your success be the proof of your effort, because the more unpredictable you become, the more impossible it is for others to halt your progress. You won't be stopped if you were never seen coming. Silence isn't just a behavior, it's a weapon, one that requires discipline, patience, and clarity. But once mastered, it becomes the edge that separates the common from the commanding. The loud may attract attention, but the silent own it. Because in the end, the man who speaks for validation is always seeking. The man who moves in silence already has what others are looking for: power, control, and freedom. And so, remember this in every situation, whether insulted, praised, betrayed, challenged, or watched, your silence is not just a response. It's your throne. Sit on it. Own it. And when you choose to speak, let your words carry the force of everything you chose not to say. Stay sharp, stay unreadable, and let your silence carve a path louder than any voice ever could.